Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? Who puts the network in jeopardy? You hear that? There's the threat again. Still try to sue us. And I want to say good luck with that, because we thought about it, we packed the courts, and we have a surprise ace up our sleeve. You tried to get me fired in September. It didn't work, Mr. President. Last night, the Angry Orange posted, why does ABC Fake News keep Jimmy Kimmel, a man with no talent and very poor television ratings, on the air? Why do the TV syndicates put up with it? Also, totally biased coverage. Get the bum off the air. I'm the bum. I'm the bum. And he posted this, I think this is interesting, at 12:49 a.m., 11 minutes after the show ended on the East Coast, which is nice. He watches us live. Hi, Mr. President. How are you? Thanks for watching us on TV instead of on YouTube. We appreciate that, and I'll tell you, it's viewers like you who keep us on the air, ironically.
That clip was genuinely amusing. The crowd burst into laughter. Kimmel moved forward with his show. But what most viewers at home didn't know that evening was striking. That wasn't the first occasion Trump had tried to push Kimmel off the air. It wasn't the second attempt either. It wasn't anywhere near the most serious effort. Because just weeks before, the sitting president of the United States had done something no commander-in-chief had attempted in living memory. He hadn't merely mocked a TV host on a social media platform. He had deployed the entire apparatus of the federal government, the FCC, broadcast regulators, and the financial leverage of billion-dollar licensing agreements in an effort to have Jimmy Kimmel removed from television permanently. And for 6 days in September 2025, it succeeded. This is the account of what followed.
That our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it.
To grasp how a late-night comedian became the central figure in the gravest First Amendment crisis in modern broadcast history, you need to return to September 15, 2025. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, had just been killed in an assassination. The nation was raw, grieving, and seething with anger. In that charged environment, Jimmy Kimmel did what he has always done. He told a joke. He remarked that Trump's response to Kirk's death reminded him of a toddler mourning a dead fish. Right-wing media exploded in outrage, and within a day, the story had traveled from social media directly into the West Wing. Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman appointed by Donald Trump, the federal body that governs broadcast licenses, appeared on a conservative podcast and issued what legal experts would later describe as a thinly veiled intimidation. He told ABC affiliate stations they could handle the matter the easy way or face consequences the hard way. He stated that broadcasters should take steps to address Kimmel's conduct or encounter, in his own words, additional work for the FCC ahead.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country.
Nexstar Media Group, among the largest owners of ABC affiliate stations in the country, had a $6.2 billion acquisition pending before the FCC for approval. It announced it would stop airing Kimmel's program. Within hours, Sinclair Broadcasting, another major affiliate owner with its own regulatory matters before the FCC, did the same. ABC declared that Jimmy Kimmel Live was suspended with no set return date. A program that had aired for more than 2 decades was gone. Not through a lawsuit. Not through a court ruling. Because the chairman of a federal regulatory agency made a phone call. Republican Senator Ted Cruz, one of Kimmel's most frequently lampooned targets, described it as unbelievably dangerous. He said Carr sounded like a mob enforcer. The ACLU characterized it as going beyond McCarthyism. And Jimmy Kimmel himself, he learned the news while standing in a restroom.
I have a lot of people. I have like 5 people who work in my office with me, so the only private place to go is the bathroom.
For 6 days, the studio sat in darkness. Outside the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, supporters gathered in solidarity. More than 400 public figures, including Meryl Streep and Pedro Pascal, signed an ACLU open letter describing it as a grim chapter in the history of American free speech. Thousands canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions overnight. Protesters surrounded Disneyland's entrance. Meanwhile, Trump, observing from the White House, didn't simply celebrate, he escalated. He named additional talk show hosts by name. He suggested that late-night television as a whole could be targeted next. The message was unmistakable: "This is the price you pay for mocking me." Then September 22 came. Disney announced the program would return to air. And on the evening of September 23, 2025, something unfolded inside that studio that caught everyone off guard. He stepped out onto the stage to a thunderous standing ovation. The audience was already on its feet before a single word left his mouth. What he delivered over the next 18 minutes became the most viewed late-night monologue in the history of television. It accumulated 26 million views within 24 hours across social platforms alone, with 6.2 million tuning in via broadcast even without dozens of major affiliates carrying it. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He opened with a reference to Jack Paar in 1960, the last time a late-night host had been pulled from television amid a network controversy.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted, it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do.
This was the moment that confounded everyone who had braced for an angry tirade. Kimmel led not with fury, but with compassion. He drew a clear line between Charlie Kirk the person, the husband, the son, and the political warfare being conducted in his name. He acknowledged Kirk's widow for her public call for forgiveness at the memorial service. His voice broke. Audience members later told journalists they were moved to tears. And then, having earned the full attention of a silent room, he pivoted.
This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
He named Brendan Carr directly. He repeated the threat verbatim, the easy way or the hard way, and invited the audience to consider carefully what it means for every American citizen, across all political lines, when a federal regulator threatens a broadcaster over a comedy routine.
Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? You think that sounds crazy? No! 10 years ago, this sounded crazy.
Then came the moment that may have sealed everything.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say,
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like. That will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely...
The applause that erupted was not partisan in nature. It was the sound of a room collectively exhaling, because Kimmel had accomplished something comedians almost never managed to do. He removed himself from the center of the story. He elevated it beyond Jimmy Kimmel. He reframed it as a question of whether the United States government could weaponize regulatory authority to punish a broadcaster for telling a joke. The answer, delivered to 6.2 million viewers that night and 26 million more the following morning, was, not while the world is watching. The consequences arrived quickly and decisively. Within days, Nexstar announced it was reinstating the show. Sinclair did the same. Legal scholars concluded that Carr's statements had likely amounted to textbook jawboning, an unconstitutional exercise of governmental pressure designed to suppress speech. A bipartisan coalition of former FCC commissioners submitted a formal petition to dismantle the regulatory mechanism Carr had exploited. And Trump continued posting.
To get me fired in September. It didn't work, Mr. President. I admire your tenacity. If you're watching tonight, which I presume you are, how about this? I'll go when you go, okay? We'll be a team. Let's ride off into the sunset together like Butch Cassidy and the Suntan Kid. And until then, if I may borrow a phrase from you, quiet pig.
There is a phenomenon that occurs when authority overreaches its boundaries. It doesn't simply fail in its objective. It delivers the very person it sought to silence the most powerful platform of their professional life. Before September 2025, Jimmy Kimmel drew an average of 1.77 million viewers each night. His return broadcast pulled in 6.26 million on network television alone, the highest-rated regular episode in the program's entire run. The suspension, engineered to destroy him, made him impossible to overlook. The calculation behind the pressure campaign assumed Kimmel would back down, that ABC would remain compliant, that the silence would hold. It lasted 6 days. And in a media landscape where outrage is the currency and volume is the weapon, the most defiant thing Jimmy Kimmel did was not the joke that ignited the whole situation. It was walking back out onto that stage, voice-controlled, facts at the ready, prepared to make the case, and compelling everyone watching, on every side of the divide, to ask themselves a single question: is this the country we want? Subscribe if you believe that question still deserves an answer.